Okay, let's talk about The Monkey, which is directed by Osgood Perkins. Who is Osgood Perkins? Well, you remember he is the director behind Long Legs with Nicolas Cage, which is a movie that I quite enjoyed from the tone. It was very, very tonally, I thought was great. It does not stick the landing in the third act. Osgood Perkins is also Anthony Perkins' son. So his family has a legacy in horror. So the monkey is about an actual monkey. Okay. It is a monkey that drums, and these two kids, when they were young, twin brothers, get this, they kind of find it among their father's belongings. And what this monkey does is when you wind it up and it starts a rat tat tat on the drums, someone always dies. It's a horror comedy and probably leaning more into the comedy in the first half of the movie, which I'm not gonna, it's what this is Final Destination with a monkey. And the deaths are gruesome. I mean, gory, but funny because they're so over the top and ridiculous. I'm not going to ruin any of them. They are hilarious and horrifying. And Tatiana Maslany plays their mom as when they're young boys. And this monkey is literally monkey trouble to anyone. And the deaths are so Final Destination. They're like a Rube Goldberg like thing happens, and then boop, 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 and then somebody somehow dies by a series of weird things occurring, which must have to do with the monkey. Well, the two brothers, they bury this thing, they throw it down a well to get rid of it. Years later, they're grown, and one of the twins has a son with a relationship. Also, Elijah Wood is in this. I barely recognized him. He looks so different. But now the monkey has somehow resurfaced and strange deaths are occurring. I'm glad I saw this with an audience. People bursting out loud laughing. It was laughing and going, ew, which I love. If you like the Final Destination movies, this is like those movies. What's great about Final Destination is everyone can see the death coming. You see it, you're like, oh my God, don't drive behind that truck filled with giant logs, you idiot. You are going to die. And that's what ends up happening the more this goes on. I do think it gets a little tired and ridiculous by the end. So, like his last film, kind of doesn't stick the landing, but the concept I loved. And I could not believe how many people I saw at the screening I was at had the monkey popcorn buckets. They were everywhere. I was tempted. I was tempted.
You should have.
I should have gotten it because it will be gone. Although they had plenty of Captain America buckets everywhere. Yeah. Those were not in limited supply.
Yeah.
So if you like Final Destination, if you like, this is more of a comedy. Long Legs was not as much a comedy. It had its moments, but this is definitely more leaning on the comedy. I think conceptually they've created what will probably be a franchise. And I have to admit, I had a really good time. I'm just sitting here laughing through the whole thing. It was insanely over the top. There's a series of deaths in the third act. I can't even tell you. Obviously, I'm not spoiling any of the ways in which people die. They're just stupid. They are so stupid and over the top. You can only laugh. So I got sucked in. I would say I enjoyed this better than Long Legs. I think they're also trying to build towards a franchise. And, I recommend it. But look, if you're squeamish about gore, don't see this. Do not. It is some of those most gruesome deaths I've seen and very creative too, just like Final Destination. So a recommend for the monkey. It's fun, but I like the first half of the movie probably better than the second half. But and probably has a great marketing tie-in, and I can see the Monkey 2, More Monkey Trouble, coming to theaters. So I actually think you would like this, Alan, just because it's so you like comedy.
I do like
You're
comedy.
a comedy guy.
This the comedy intrigues me. I just feel like I'm going to spend most of my time cringing at all the death.
But that's part of the experience.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, I know. But I mean, it's reminiscent. That I mean, that's why back in the 80s, people went to horror films. It's the screaming at the screen saying, "Don't go, don't open that door."
I'll tell you what it is. This came from just having covered horror for a long time. A lot of this comes from the best thing about horror, especially seeing horror movies when you're in high school, going on dates, right? Like a horror movie is a safe bet to go on a date because it's the challenge of can you take it? And that came from like movies about like driver's ed that would be gruesome to kind of scare you into wearing your seatbelt. That's where this kind of genre of the over-the-top gore came from, those kinds of movies. The purpose of those educational films in high school, that they would show these movies that basically would scare you into being a safe driver and wearing your seatbelt. And this genre of over-the-top gore owes itself to these old, educational driving movies. Look it up.
Red Asphalt.
Look it up. Yeah. Red Asphalt. All these movies. They this movie, The Monkey, owes a debt to those because the whole thing is watching it on the big screen in a theater with a bunch of people, experiencing it, and can you take it? Do you look away from the screen? Do you watch what's happening? And the reaction, people screaming. I mean, the theater I was at, people screamed, laughed, and then also like where you'd hear the which it's recommended. And like this one death near the end of the film, I can't it's all I'm saying is they're very creative ways of seeing lots of people die. And there you go. It's a new Final Destination type of film. So there you go.
Yeah. Which is why I think I like Longlegs. I was more willing to see Longlegs than this one. And I think Longlegs is more about the Nicolas Cage character than anything.
Well, this is more of a comedy. And we could use a good comedy.
Yes.